Hi everyone. It's now time to go take a look at the roster of Team Sweden going ahead in the World Junior Championship. Sweden has won 51 straight round-robin games since 2006. Not a single loss. But when it comes to the elimination games, they haven't won enough as they would wanted so. But will this year be different for Team Sweden? They already lost many players due to the virus, so they already have a higher mountain to climb. But looking at their whole roster, it's really not that bad and pretty strong. They could absolutely win it all and finally be the year they win gold. But without waiting any longer, let's take a look at their forward score. First off, we have center Oskar Bjärselius from Djurgårdens IF in the SHL, the Premier League in Sweden, where he had no points in 13 games, but in the G20 he had 9 points in 5 games. Next we have Arvid Kosmar from Linköping HC in the SHL, where he played 16 games and had 1 goal. In the G20 he had 6 points in 3 games. He was drafted back in 2019 in the 7th round by the Vancouver Canucks. He's a good two-way center. Next up, we have Noel Gunler from Brynäs IF in the SHL, where he had 3 points in 8 games, and he also played for Luleå HF this year and had 3 points in 10 games. He was drafted this year in the 2nd round by the Carolina Hurricanes. He has a great shot and good offensive instinct. He will probably be an important player in the power play. Next, we have Emil Heinemann from Leksands IF in the SHL. He had 3 points in 19 games thus far, and no points in 1 game in G20. He was drafted this year in the 2nd round by the Florida Panthers. He's a good speedy forward and good in the both ways of the ice. Next up, we have Simon Holmstrom from the Bridgeport Sound Tigers in the American Hockey League. Last year, playing for Bridgeport, he had 15 points in 46 games. And this year, is currently in loan with HC Vita Asten in Hockey Allsvenskan, where he had 2 points in 11 games. He was drafted last year in the 1st round, 23rd overall, by the New York Islanders. His main asset is his two-way ability. Next, we have right winger Alexander Holtz from Djurgårdens IF in the SHL, where he had a good 13 points in 19 games. Last year, playing for Sweden, he had 5 points in 7 games. He was drafted this year 7th overall by the New Jersey Devils. He's a really good shooter and be really useful in the power play of Sweden and be one of their best forwards. Next, we have 6'4" winger Oskar Kvist from Brynäs IF in the SHL. He had 2 points in 13 games thus far. In the G20, he had 12 points in 13 games. Next up, we have Theodor Niederbach from Frölunda HC in the SHL. He had 1 goal in 11 games thus far, and in the G20, he had an impressive 35 points in 19 games. He was drafted this year in the 2nd round by the Detroit Red Wings. He's a good puck-moving and playmaking player. Next, we have Zion Nubek from HV71 in the SHL. He currently has 2 assists in 18 games, and in the G20, 8 points in 4 games. He was drafted this year in the 4th round by the Carolina Hurricanes, a bit late from what he was expected to be drafted at. He has a good shot and good offensive instinct, but his 5'8" frame could be the reason why he got drafted so late. He could be an interesting option for Sweden. Next, we have Oskar Olsson from HV71 in the SHL. He have 4 points in 11 games thus far, and in G20, 27 points in 16 games. He is expected to be drafted in the 1st round in the upcoming NHL entry draft, and could be drafted very late. He has a really good skill set for his age and a good shot. Next, we have right winger Lucas Raymond from Frölunda HC in the SHL. He currently has 12 points in 22 games. He was drafted this year 4th overall by the Detroit Red Wings. Last year in the World Juniors, he had 4 points in 7 games. He's a really good, skilled player, and he's capable of pretty much doing anything. He will be a pretty special player for Detroit coming down the line, and a good player that could help Sweden win the gold if he gets going on, as he's probably the best forward on the team. Next, we have center Albin Sundqvist from Skellefteå AIK in the SHL. He currently has 3 points in 23 games for them. He was drafted this year in the 6th round by the Anaheim Ducks. Next up, we have a huge 6'8" player, Helmer Söderblom from Frölunda HC in the SHL. He currently has no points in 7 games, but in G20, 4 points in 4 games. He was drafted in 2019, 6th overall by the Detroit Red Wings. With his huge frame, he could be a pretty important bottom line forward for Sweden. Next, we have Jonathan Wikström from HV71 G20 in the G20 Sweden Hockey League, where he had 10 points in 10 games and also played for the main club and had no points in 6 games. Next, we have small defenseman Emil André from HV71 in the SHL. He currently has 3 points in 20 games, and in the G20, 1 point in 1 game. He was drafted this year in the 2nd round by the Philadelphia Flyers. Next, we have Gustav Berggruen from Västerås HK in the Hockey Allsvenskan. He currently has 3 points in 17 games. He was drafted in 2019 in the 6th round by the Detroit Red Wings. Next up, we have Tobias Bjornfot from the LA Kings in the National Hockey League. Last year, playing with LA, he only played 3 games but had no points, and played with the Ontario Reign, their affiliate, and got 19 points in 44 games. In the World Junior last year, he had no points in 7 games, but this year, in loan with Djurgården IF in the SHL, he had 3 points in 15 games. He was drafted in 2019 in the 22 overall by the LA Kings. He will probably rejoin the LA Kings when this tournament comes to an end. He's a real good two-way defenseman and good in transition. He will probably be one in the top 2 of Sweden defensemen. Next, we have also a very good defenseman in Philip Broberg from Skellefteå AIK in the SHL. This year, he currently has 8 points in 23 games. He played 2 years ago for Sweden and had 1 assist in 4 games, and last year 1 point in 7 games. He was drafted in 2019 by the Edmonton Oilers. He's also a very good two-way defenseman, and his very good fluid skating ability is probably his best asset. Next, we have Alex Brandstam from Djurgårdens IF in the SHL. He had 1 assist in 6 games thus far, and in the G20, 7 points in 9 games. Next up, we have Ludvig Edström from Djurgårdens IF G20 in the G20 Sweden Hockey League, where he had 8 points in 14 games thus far. He also played 6 games in Hockey Etten, the 3rd league in Sweden, and had no points. And with the main club of Djurgårdens, he played 1 game and had no points. Next, we have Albert Johansson from Färjestad BK in the SHL. He had 7 points in 20 games thus far. He was drafted in the 2019 draft in the 2nd round by the Detroit Red Wings, one of another Detroit prospect in this team. He's a really good two-way defenseman and could be one of Sweden's most important players. Next, we have Viktor Söderström from AIK in Hockey Allsvenskan, where he had 6 points in 12 games thus far. Last year, he played for Sweden in the World Juniors and had a good 6 points in 7 games. He was drafted last year 11th overall by the Arizona Coyotes. His good offensive instinct and good two-way ability will make him one of Sweden's best defensemen, along with Bjorkfot, Broberg, and Johansson. Now, starting at goal, we have Hugo Alnefelt from HV71 in the SHL. He currently have a 901 save percentage in 11 games, and last year he played also for Sweden 6 games and had a 924 save percentage. He was drafted in 2019 in the third round by the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has a good 6'3" frame, and if Sweden want to go with experience, I think they'll go with Alnefelt as their first goalie. Now, next goalie, we have Kalle Klang from Kristianstads IK in Hockey Allsvenskan, where he had a very good 939 save percentage in 8 games. He was drafted this year in the third round by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And now last goalie, and a very interesting one, is Jesper Wallstedt from Luleå HF in the SHL. He just turned 18 back in November, and he's projected to go in the first round in the next upcoming NHL entry draft. Some people even saw him going even higher than Askarov did last year in the draft, and some see him even cracking the top 5. He has a good 6'3" frame and a pretty good agility and poise. So, in general, even with all the players missing from the team, I think they are really a strong team to compete for gold. Their forwards are pretty skilled and also good two-way of the ice, and their defense are absolutely stacked of talent, and they have 3 really good goaltenders. If they want to go with experience, I think they'll go with Alnefelt, but Wallstedt could really shuffle the card and be dominant. But the real question is, will they finally end their curse of winning the gold? I guess we'll have to see. So, next team I'll be covering is Team USA. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more World Junior coverage, and many more hockey related videos.